Hey everybody, how's it going? It's a Daily Shooter, and today's video should be a lot of fun. I've got the ultimate EDC gun belt comparison video for you. On the table here, I've got more belts than I can hold in my hands, each one with different characteristics, different buckles, stuff like that. We're going to go ahead and go over all of them, talk about some of the positive aspects, some of the benefits, and some of the downsides to each one of these belts, buckles, and systems, so stay tuned. Okay, so on the table in front of me here, I've got a bunch of different belts, each one with different characteristics. Now, these are EDC style belts. These are not like 3-gun belts, double scuba webbing, super stiff that have to go over your pants. EDC meaning that you can run these through your belt loop, that you can wear them every single day, that they're comfortable, and all you need to do is slide a holster in, you're good to go. Okay, that's what I mean by EDC style. And what I tried to do here is get a compilation of different types of belts that I think most people out there are going to be using. Now, I'm not talking about the stuff from Walmart either, where you're talking about, you know, just a standard leather belt. And that's not a gun belt. That's just a fashion belt, and you shouldn't be using one of those for a holster. It's just not what it's made for. It should be better than that. So we're talking about gun belts today. Now, this is, again, kind of a wide array of different types of belts. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the ones that I actually think are the worst. So we're going to go ahead and move these to the side, and I am going to show you guys the belt that I would choose last if I was to choose a gun belt. Now, I should mention that I do have a favorite. If you've been watching this channel for a long period of time, you probably know what that favorite is already. I've mentioned it several times in different videos. But if you ask me, it's the best possible EDC gun belt that you're going to find on the market today, period, hands down. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start off with what I think is the worst, and we're going to work our way to the best. Now, if you ask me, I think this one is got to be the worst. It's got to be the worst. And this is by a company called Klik Belts. Now, don't be fooled by a buckle, okay? A buckle can be very deceiving, because this one right here actually has a Cobra buckle. And the Cobra buckle is one of the strongest and best buckles that you can find around. They are very tough. They can take a lot of stress. You can just basically tow a car with these and they're going to be fine. So Cobra buckles are great. This has a Cobra buckle on it. But there are some very big downsides to this belt. Here's the biggest downside. It's basically like a seat belt with a buckle on it. That's basically what we have here. This is a nice belt. And if you wanted to wear this just to hold your pants up, then absolutely, this would work just fine. But you shouldn't put a holster on something like this, because even though it has this super strong buckle, the belt itself is not going to hold any weight. The second that you try and put anything on this, it's going to start canting out, it's going to start moving, it's not going to hold it against your body, it's just not going to give you the proper draw, it's just bad altogether. I mean, if we were to take a holster, I have a holster here, let's go ahead and slide this holster on. I'll show you guys exactly what I'm talking about, and I'll give it its fair shake. So here we have a holster, and you can see that it holds the holster just fine. But if we go ahead and we put a loaded firearm in here, this is the SIG M17. We go ahead and put that on there. Even if I pull it as tight as I want, you can see the type of cant that we get from it. And no matter how much I turn, well, I guess if I turn all the way over, then we can get it to stay straight. But if your pants are like this is basically what the pistol is going to do once you put this thing on. It's just going to roll right over on itself. So even though it has a nice buckle on it, and the buckle can hold a lot of weight, the belt can't hold anything. Now, I suppose I should explain real quick before we continue what I mean by fully loaded, since I'm kind of having this thing flop around. What I mean is we have a loaded magazine. There's nothing in the chamber. Double, triple check everything just to make sure. Point in a safe direction, make sure that the trigger is dead, and then I reinsert the magazine so it's fully loaded. That way we get all of the weight out of it without having it in the condition where there's going to be something in the chamber. That way I can test it with the belts without having to worry about anything. So now let's go ahead and move on to the next belt, okay? The next belt that we have here is a belt that I think is pretty common amongst a lot of people who carry every single day, and that's a rigger's belt. Now, people like rigger's belts because they are extremely strong. The buckles are strong. Basically what a rigger's belt is, it's for climbing, okay? Rigger's belts are for climbing. You put your carabiners on this, you can attach things to the end. You see see that we have this point right here on the buckle, and with that point you can go ahead and attach ropes and slings and all sorts of stuff to it. So people will go for it, again, because, you know, the strength of the belt. But really what you're talking about, again, is more or less strength in this direction. Most riggers belts aren't going to be super tight around the outside, so that means that they're not going to have the rigidity that you're looking for to, again, carry a holster. Now this one is significantly more rigid than the last belt that we looked at. If I kind of hold it up a little bit with my thumb here, you'll see that it doesn't just flop over on itself, but again, it's not as rigid as you're going to want for EDC. Now, the next belt that we're going to be taking a look at is definitely heads and tails above the previous two. It's by 511. 511 is a very well-known company. They have a good reputation as well, but a lot of their stuff is very expensive. This is one of the 511 Tactical Series belts. This one right here is pretty much the same as that previous Riggers belt that I showed you. It's got a very similar buckle and a buckle design, as you can see right there. This one is definitely a lot more rigid than the previous belt that we looked at, so if we were to take the other Riggers belt and kind of hold it the same, you can see that the other Riggers belt just kind of falls over on itself, whereas the 511 is definitely a lot more rigid, but it's not super rigid. I would say that this belt is semi-rigid, okay, because it still has, you know, it still has a lot of movement in it, and if you're going to be putting weight on it, then obviously, you know, it's not going to be the best, but it's definitely a lot better than a lot of other belts that I've seen people wear out there. Now, again, this is another one that uses a Velcro system, so basically you run your belt through here, through the buckle, and then you bring it over. It's got a little piece of Velcro on this side, and then you find the size that fits for you, you tighten that down, and then you're good to go. Now, if you ask me, the best EDC gun belt on the market today has got to be the Core Essentials EDC gun belt. I think these absolutely have everything that you're looking for in a gun belt and some stuff that you didn't know you needed. And I'll talk to you about that in just a second here. But these are very nice, very rigid. You can see this one doesn't even have a buckle on it right now. The one that I'm wearing is similar to this, but in leather. This is the nylon version of it. This is like a little bit more of a tactical style, but still a very nice belt. You can see that it holds its shape. It's got plenty of rigidity. And the thing that really kind of makes this thing stand out is the fact that it has their track line built into it. Now, the track line is, to me, one of the most special parts of this belt, and that's because it allows you to make 1/4 inch adjustments on the fly. So you don't have to worry about taking off a big Velcro piece and tightening it down, or taking off your Cobra buckle, making a small adjustment, and then putting it back on and finding exactly where you need to be before you leave the house. This thing allows you to make adjustments very quickly and very easily. So if you go to dinner and you're sitting down, you want to loosen up your belt a little bit, you can do that. And then when you stand up, you want to tighten it back down because you're going for a walk, you can do that with this as well, because it comes with this buckle. This buckle has a little lever on it, and all you have to do is simply depress that little lever, which is very easy to do. You slide this into position wherever you want it, and once you find the right size for you or where you want this thing to sit, then you just go ahead and you leave it there. So you can see here it clicks like that. Once you find the right size, you're locked in. You get out of the house one day, you're leaving, you notice that your belt's maybe just a little bit too loose, you want a 1/2 inch of adjustment. 2 clicks is going to give you that 1/2 inch of adjustment. You're good to go. You're off with your day. You notice a little bit tighter later on down the day once it warms up and stuff, or you have a dad bod like me and, you know, a little bit extra down there, then yeah, something like this helps a lot. Again, like I was saying, it's very rigid. Now, here's one that I've had for years now. I took the buckle off this one so I could show you guys, but look, if I hold this thing out like this, it still holds its rigidity. It is that rigid. So these are fantastic belts. I mean, I don't know another belt that you can, you know, let go out like 3 feet like that and it doesn't completely fold over on itself. So they make really, really nice gun belts. Again, this is what it looks like if you guys wanted to know after years of use. So I've been really happy with that. Now, I've got a couple other belts on the table. Some companies sent me some of these. I've done reviews on these in the past, but there are companies out there that make something similar. And if you ask me, I don't understand patent law. I don't know how these things work. But if you ask me, these just kind of take the original and they just, personally, I think they just kind of stole the design and kind of stole one of the aspects of the belt. So here is something that was sent to me. I believe it was sent to me from China. I could be wrong, but this is an Rgb Ratcheting Gun Belt. It is a fully leather belt, and it's got a belt buckle that's very similar to the Core belt. And you can see that it has the same ratcheting system inside. Now, this belt is definitely not near as rigid as the Core Essentials belt, but you can see, again, they kind of stole the same design for the belt buckle and for the ratcheting system. So I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm working hard for something to create something, and somebody kind of steals my idea. That kind of pisses me off a little bit. So again, I don't know where you stand with it, but I don't like it at all. Another one that has pretty much the same design, again, is going to be Next Belt. Now, this again came after Core Essentials, I believe, but they have really kind of the same design. We have a buckle here. We have the same trackline style system that's on the center right here, and then again, a buckle that will make its adjustments when you depress that little button that's here, which is definitely not as easy to depress. But the one thing about the Next Belt is that it is definitely not very rigid. As you can see here, it's just kind of springy. It doesn't hold itself up very well. It just kind of collapses. So while this one is definitely a lot stiffer and it has that same system, this one right here just kind of falls over on itself. Even though it has the same adjustment system, it's not something that I would recommend because it's just kind of flimsy. Now, in full transparency, all these belts were either sent to me by the manufacturer of the belt or by Core Essentials themselves. So I didn't have to pay for this belt. It was sent to me by Core. As a matter of fact, they even sponsored a trip for me to SHOT Show back in 2018, I believe. So if you want to call me a shill for Core, that's perfectly fine. I still think they make the best belt possible. But I try and be as open and honest as I can in my videos so you guys know exactly where these things stand. I didn't pay for any of these belts. They were all sent to me either by Core or the manufacturer of the belt itself. So let me go ahead and talk a little bit more about the Core Essentials belt since it is my favorite, and we'll talk about some of the adjustments here. One of the nice things I like about Core is it's pretty much a universal fit. So you buy a whole belt like this, okay? This is the entire belt as you see it right here. And you buy this belt without having to make any pre-measurements. So you don't have to measure your waist, you don't have to come up with any numbers or anything like that and submit it online and then have the belt sent out to you. They send you out the entire belt just like this, and you cut this belt to fit your size. So on a belt like this, you actually have to pick, you know, either a small, medium, or large, or you have to measure your waist, and you have to put in how many inches, and then they send you out the proper belt after they make it. With the Core Essentials belt, what you do is, on the inside of the belt right here, you're going to see some different numbers. These are inches indicators right here. So you go ahead, you can put this belt around your waist even if you want to put the buckle on it and just kind of slide it on to see exactly where you sit, you can do that. But what you do is once you find the exact measurement that you want, remember to leave a little bit extra since you can adjust it in and out. You don't want to cut it so that it's just at the last click right there. You want it kind of somewhere in the middle. You just go ahead and you take some scissors, you cut this out, and then you take your buckle, and then once you have that cut out, you go ahead and take your buckle, you slide that thing over, and then this buckle has two different forms of retention. One is going to be this little flap right here. This little flap has some teeth on it, and when you push this thing down, it basically digs into the belt and locks it in there completely tight. I mean, I've gone hiking, camping, climbing with this, and never ever had an issue with any of my belts. But they did add a little bit of extra retention for the belt buckle as well by putting these two little screw holes here that you can use to kind of tighten everything down even a little bit more if you'd like to. So basically, you don't have to worry about any adjustments, any sizing. You do all the sizing yourself, and then you get the buckle that holds on really nice and tight and is totally adjustable. So again, I have my last one. So what I did is I took the buckle off this one so I can show you guys. Again, this one is at least a couple years old, and this one is one that I kind of used with a fancier style belt buckle. This is more or less like one of their more dressy style belt buckles. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and I'll take off my belt right now. Don't mind me. But let me take off the belt that I'm wearing right now, which is also a Core Essentials EDC belt. This is one of their leather EDC belts. So you can see that they have one that's a little bit more tactical and one that's a little bit more classy. So if you're a businessman, you are a lawyer, you're somebody who goes into a building all day long, you want something that's still dressy, they have that as well. But I have one of their more fashionable belts on belt buckles on this one also. So we'll go ahead and we'll set that to the side. But basically what we have here is one that's already cut for me. So all I have to do is simply slide this one over. And this is a previous generation. This is their Generation 4. They are currently on the Generation 5 right now. The Generation 4 just had the teeth on it. So it doesn't even have any other type of locking to it. So we'll just take these teeth right here. We lock those teeth down. Take our belt, slide it through. And that's it. It's good to go. So that's really all there is to it. Once you have that, you're done. You have a nice strong EDC belt and you're good to go. So they make some really nice belts. As a matter of fact, they even send a hanger with your belt. So if you're somebody who has a few different belts that you want to, let's say, just hang up for later use up in the closet, they send this belt hanger right here. This one right here holds two different belts, and all you do is you simply slide the little piece down into the belt and it clicks just like that, and it hangs onto your belt. So since I have two belts here, I guess I can show you guys. Just like that. and that will hold onto your belt, so you can go ahead and hang this in the closet. So I think that's cool as well. It does come with a couple extra keepers, so when you have, you know, you're kind of tightening your belt and you have a little bit extra sticking out, you can use the keepers to wrap around and hold everything together. So you do get a pretty good value out of the core belt as well. Plus, you know, a lot of these belts get really expensive, and it just kills me because, you know, you spend a ton of money on a belt, or not even a ton of money. You just spend, you know, a good amount of money for you. I mean, it's a belt. You don't want to break your wallet on it, right? But, you know, you try and get yourself a belt and you get this. This stuff drives me nuts. When I see people wearing belts like this that just kind of flop over, or they're wearing a leather belt that they got from Walmart for their EDC belt, it just does not make any sense to me. So make sure you understand exactly what you're looking at and what you're looking for. If you're buying a belt online, make sure you look up some reviews. You know, find out what the retention is like, find out what the stiffness is like, find out what the buckle is like, and you know how adjustable it is and stuff like that. Again, some belts are better than others. You know, this 511 is not a bad belt. Rigger's belt, not a good EDC belt. Again, it's a great belt, very strong, great belt if you're going to be doing some climbing or hiking or camping, something like that, but not for carrying a pistol in a holster. So again, knockoff belts like this Rgb, these are available, but again, I just, you know, like knockoff stuff. I accidentally one time bought a knockoff Magpul sling, and it didn't say, it had a Magpul type logo, but I didn't notice that it wasn't the exact Magpul logo, and it had all of the same features as the Magpul sling, but it wasn't by Magpul. That pissed me off too. As a matter of fact, I took that belt and I burned it because Magpul is a company in the USA here, and they deserve the credit. You know, they don't want somebody overseas ripping them off and getting all the credit and making money on something that they came up with and designed. And again, Core Essentials is an American company. These are American-made belts, American employees. And if you're watching this in Australia and Canada, and maybe that really doesn't mean anything to you, still, the fact that these are really nice belts, I think, should kind of stand on its own. Anyway, that's the different types of belts that I think are out there, you know, Rigger's belts and so forth. Again, we're not talking about the scuba webbing stuff. That's for a completely different video. Anyway, I want to thank you all very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, and have a great day.